Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. This is Rebecca. I'm Rebecca, and this is Crafting and Crime Daily, the show where I recap live trials, currently covering the trial of Wade Wilson. Now, unbeknownst to me, I learned this after the fact yesterday. Wade Wilson just happens to be the name of Deadpool in the Marvel comics. So I don't know if he changed his name to Wade Wilson or maybe his parents were fans of Deadpool. I have no idea, but I couldn't find any information on that. But I found a lot of other information on this guy that the jury is not going to know. But he has been charged with a whole slew of things. First and foremost, 2 counts of first-degree murder for which he faces the death penalty. 1 count of assault, breaking and entering, petty theft, grand larceny, he stole vehicle, and I mean, a whole bunch of stuff that is involved in this trial. Now, he's been incarcerated since this occurred in October of 2019. And since that time, he's been a very busy boy. He was only 25 when all this went down. He's 30 years old now. But since he's been in prison, well, he's not in prison, he's only in jail. He has been charged with attempted escape. Him and his cellmate were trying to escape out the window, crack the window. He's been charged with drug smuggling. Yeah. And he's acquired all of these gorgeous tattoos. Yes. Yeah, I'm saying that facetiously. One over here. One says glory. It's written right here. Then right here is a swastika. Then he's got this like Frankenstein mouth. How do you get tattoos in jail? I don't even know how that's possible, but he did. And I looked it up. I did some research, and at each different court appearance, you see his appearance slowly starting to change as he's acquiring these tattoos. And one of the reasons this has taken so long to get to trial is that he had a prior attorney that passed away. So the present attorney actually did a motion to the court to allow him to wear makeup to cover up the facial tattoos. And the court said, yes, you can. So if he's doing that, it didn't work because you can clearly see all of the tattoos. So I don't know if he has makeup on or not. Anyway, so a lot of witnesses yesterday, like 14 witnesses total. Some of them were just on and off the stand. They're like going through this trial. Boom, 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 boom. So after the first initial witness, which I went over in yesterday's episode, along with the opening statements, where she described the evening where they met Wade Wilson at this bar called, what was it called? The Buddha. Now, this must be some bar. So the Buddha is this popular night spot where they have live music most nights of the week. So, and a place where you can meet up with your friends and apparently do drugs inside the bar. Yes, I don't think that's condoned, but that's what's happening. So they meet up with Wade Wilson, and in long story short, her friend ends up dead. So the next person on the stand is Jason Shepard. Now, this is the other guy at the bar. So these 2 women, Stephanie Johnson and Kristine Melton, they're at this Buddha bar, and they meet up with Wade Wilson and Jason Shepard. Now, according to Jason, they met up in the parking lot after the bar was closed. Now, Stephanie tells the story a little bit different, that they were in the bar, they were headed up to the upstairs bar, and Wade Wilson jumped in front of her, kind of startled her and said, hey. She introduces him to Kristine, and they hit it off. She was not so enamored with Jason. But so the 4 of them, according to him, meet up in the parking lot. And Wade has this vehicle, but he can't drive the vehicle. It's a stick shift. So he asks Jason to drive. And now I'm thinking, whose vehicle? If it's his vehicle, how come he can't drive it? Well, there's an explanation. It'll come later on. It's crazy. So the four of them get in the car. They go to Jason's house. He says he only lives like a mile away. And Jason's mother was not so happy to see them. So he says and this is consistent with Stephanie's story, that Kristine starts having sex with Wade in his bedroom. And so he and Stephanie go out and they sit on the trampoline and they're doing cocaine. He says, I had my own stash, but he was not sharing his stash with the other people, which leads me to believe the other people had their own cocaine. He didn't say that, but that was the impression I got. I don't share my cocaine. Okay, it's his stash. Next person on the stand was a Cape Coral Road Patrol officer. He got a call about a missing person, which was this Kristine Wilson. That afternoon, when she doesn't respond to her friend's text, and she goes to check on her, she's missing. So they find her car at a place called Mateo Graphics. Now, this is where Wade Wilson goes later on that day, and he goes inside the building and he says that he has killed some people and he needs to get out of there. And the guy calls the police and he flees. So that's where her car was ultimately found. So they, when they found that car, based on the statement that he made that he killed some people, they thought, well, maybe the body's in the trunk or something. So they forced entry into the car, searched it, no body. Then they went to her apartment. This is now about 4 p.m, and they forced entry into her apartment when nobody was answering. And they found her body on the floor between the kitchen and the bedroom. And it was wrapped up. He said, we saw a large bundle, and they didn't really know what this was, but they kind of undid it a little bit and saw a leg. And once they saw a leg, they were like, okay, everybody out of here. They got to preserve the crime scene. So they go out of the house, and then he realizes, we didn't check to see if this person's dead. And they hadn't checked the bedroom to make sure the house was clear, like that nobody was there. So he tells the rest of the officers, because he was a road patrol sergeant, he says, I'm going to go back in real quick. He checks an arm, and he said her body was stiff. She was dead. And nobody was in the bedroom. So next person on the stand is a major crime detective. His main focus that day was to canvass the neighborhood for camera footage. And they did enter something into evidence, but it didn't get published to the jury. I don't know if they're going to publish this later on. I don't know. Yeah. Because I was interested to see what footage they found. Anyway, the next person on the stand was a woman named Kristine. She's a forensic technician. She responded to Kristine Melton's home, took photographs. All those photographs were entered into evidence and shown to the jury of the body, how it was found, the scene, that kind of thing. And then she did collect some evidence that was sent for DNA. Then we heard from the medical examiner, and she found, her job is to find the cause and manner of death. So she did an external examination, and she found small bruises on the right side of her neck, and a bruise on her left chin. Then when they also, she had artificial nails that were broken, but they were able to get nail clippings and send those with the officers to have them tested for DNA. So she reflected back a lot of the skin, and including the skin on the scalp, to see if there's any bruising beneath the skin. And on both sides of her scalp, there was bruising. She had bruising on her lungs, on her large colon, her liver, and her bladder. And what that indicated to her was that there was some kind of blunt force trauma consistent with someone being punched. So he just sounds like he just beat the crap out of her. But the ultimate cause of death was asphyxia due to compression of the neck. And one of the ways she reached that conclusion was she had petechia in her eyes. That's the blood vessels in your eyes are like the tiniest blood vessels in your body. And when those, when the oxygen's cut off and the blood is forced up there, those blood vessels burst. And that's consistent with asphyxia. So he strangled her to death. So there was a rape kit done. We don't know what the results of that were. They do it and then they turn it over to the police to send to the lab. The manner of death was, of course, homicide, death at the hands of another person. But no one asked about a toxicology. I was curious. Not that I'm not victim blaming here. I was curious. Was she on cocaine? Was she because who does that? Who goes meets a guy in the parking lot or at the end of the night at a bar and invites him home? Anyway, remember that movie Looking for Mr. Goodbar? Yeah. After that movie, I never did anything like that, I think. Well, okay, maybe once. Okay, never mind. Okay, so moving on. Then we have, that was the shortest amount of time I've ever seen a medical examiner on the stand. And the other thing is I usually watch these trials with a playback speed of like 1.75 or 2. And she was Hispanic. And Hispanic people have this tendency to talk fast, even when they're talking in English. So I had to slow it down because I couldn't understand what she was saying. Plus, they would have her leave the stand and walk over to point out something and explain something in another part of the courtroom where there was no microphone and I couldn't hear what she was saying. It had to do with pointing out areas of bruising and things like that. So then we have the next person on the stand, a guy by the name of Ruiz Rodriguez. And what his involvement was, he had gone to the Hector Elementary School to pick up his daughter and to pay for her after school her after school program. So he goes into the office to pay for her after school program. And when he comes out in the main entrance to the school, he finds this purse. So he picks up the purse and he takes it into the office, and the school resource officer has an office right across from the main office, and he comes over and he takes the purse. Later on, we're going to hear from that school resource officer, and his testimony was that he took the purse, he looked inside for a name. The name of the person that owned the purse was Diane Ruiz, who was the second murder victim. So he goes over to the school office, has them look to see if this might be a parent, and they can't find anything that this woman is associated with any child in the school. He looks, he finds an address. It's a nearby address to the school. He has a road patrol officer go over to the address. Her son is there. And he says, my mom walked to work this morning, and between 9:30 and 11, now he took the stand too, and that's what he testified to. She usually takes an Uber that she has a friend that drives an Uber, but apparently that friend was not available that morning. So she walked. It's only about a mile. It takes her 10 to 15 minutes to walk it. But he didn't recognize the purse because apparently she would buy a new purse every month. So, but obviously he said that was her wallet, that was her cell phone. So, and at that point, they did not do a missing persons report because they really weren't aware of whether she was missing or not. They wanted to give it a little bit more time. This school resource officer did call the place where she worked because she worked as a bartender at the Moose Lodge. And she had left for work between 9:30 and 11 that morning and never made it to work. They're like, no, she didn't come to work today. So she does get reported missing later on that day, but they wanted to give it a little bit more time. So then we had a woman by the name of Dawn Griffin on the stand. She works at this interior design business. And on the morning of, this is all the same morning, October 7th of 2019, everything I'm talking about. That morning, she gets to work about at 7:30, and there's some big picture windows where she's working, and she sees a man walking by, and he is got no shirt on. And she's thinking, oh, she just kind of glanced and saw him, and then she did, not long enough to identify the defendant. But then she heard a loud noise, and she looks out, and she sees this man beating up this woman, with this blonde-headed woman. So she calls 911. So then the next person on the stand was Amy Slavogian, and I may be butchering that last name. I apologize. She is a friend of Melissa Martinez. Now, Melissa Martinez, in this little shopping, like it's just a little business area. You have the interior design shop here, and then there's some buildings here, and you go up these little stairs, and Melissa Martinez had a salon there, a spa that she owned. So Amy is friends with Melissa, and she said she had been out of town, got back March 6th, and that night she decided she's going to go to the Buddha to meet up with her friends. She misses her friends. So she meets up with Melissa Martinez, which is her good friend, and she's there with a guy named Wade Wilson. And this is the same night that Wade leaves with the murder victim. But this is earlier in the evening. So sometime during that night, they decide they're going to leave. Now, Wade had asked them if they wanted to come back to some guy's house with them. And Amy's like, no, just no. So they go out in the parking lot, and Wade takes her car, Melissa's car. So Amy says, I'll drive you home, because it wasn't far. So Amy drives Melissa home. And actually, Amy drives Melissa to her house. I guess she spent the night at her house. So Amy wakes up the next morning, and she could hear Melissa on the phone with somebody saying, hold on, I'm going to find an envelope with an address on it, because she wanted to give whoever was on the phone Amy's address. So Amy's like, no. Don't give anybody my address. I don't want any strangers here at my house. So it turns out she's talking to Wade Wilson, and she's trying to get her car back. And so she asked Amy, can you drive me to my spa? He's going to meet us there and give me my car back. So they drive to the spa. Amy does not get out of her vehicle, but here's what Amy says happened.
So you're pulling into this parking lot, and you've gone ahead and parked, and you see Mr. Wilson in a black vehicle that you don't recognize as the one he left the Buddha in that night. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So you park and he parks, right? Mm-hmm. Is that a yes?
Yes.
All right. Do you get out of your car?
No.
Okay. This is Mia, or Miss Martinez, get out of her car.
Yes. Mila got out and went to the driver's side window.
What did you see?
She was just trying to get her stuff, and they were having just words back and forth, and then he tried to pull her in the window.
How did she respond?
She started fighting immediately.
What else did she do?
She wound up falling backwards, and then Wade got out of the vehicle after her, but the car wasn't in park. It was actually still rolling, so it almost ran them over. And then he slammed it in park and then went after her immediately. He was ripping her dress off of her. He was pulling her hair. Her extensions were everywhere all over the ground. And then he proceeded to drag her from the parking lot to the stairs, up the stairs. She was holding onto the banister like a monkey, trying to hold on, and he just kept ripping her more and more to the door upstairs.
How tall would you say Miss Montanez is?
I'm only 5'4", she's shorter than me.
How much would you say she weighed?
She's got to be 125 pounds. She's light, little.
What color hair does she have at
One.
that time? Did anyone else see?
There was a
what
lot
you
of
were
people.
seeing?
There was people walking on the sidewalk. There was I don't know if it's an upholstery shop or what it was, but design shop on the corner that has open windows. And there was a lawyer office. It was broad daylight.
Did anyone come to her assistance?
It happened so fast, and I immediately called 911.
When you saw them go upstairs towards the spa, what did you see Mr. Wilson do to Miss Montanez?
Instantly, when he punched her, well, he dragged her from the lower part of the stairs to the upper part of the stairs. He pinned her up against the wall by his hands on her throat, and then he punched her in her face. When he punched her in her face, her nose exploded, and I don't know if it was sirens in the background or the sound or the blood that came out of her nose that spooked him, but he immediately got into the black car and just started taking off.
Now, was he making any threats to her when he was beating her?
It was so fast, but he did threaten. He did say, he said to me if I got out of the car, he was going to kill me.
Say anything towards Miss Montanez?
No, he was trying to hurt her. He was trying to get her in the car to get away with her.
Was he saying anything to her at the time that he was beating her and striking her?
It was so fast. Honestly, he was just dragging her and beating her.
After he was dragging and beating her, you said he ultimately wound up leaving?
Yes.
Craziness, right? No, she doesn't go to her rescue. Nobody went to her rescue. We called 911. I'm not sure I would have wanted, but she said, it happened very quickly. I'm not so sure I would have wanted to get involved with this 6'6" guy. Anyway. So then the next person on the stand was Melissa. She took the stand. The first part of her testimony, the sound was turned off. So I thought, are they doing this because she was a victim? I wasn't sure why they were doing it. But in any case, here is her, it does finally come back on. Here's her describing what happened.
When calling you, did you recognize a number that he was texting you and calling you from?
No.
Had he ever called or texted you from that number before?
No.
Now, did you end up agreeing to meet him someplace?
Yes.
What was your purpose in meeting with him?
To retrieve my car and to get my keys, because I was finale. That was it. I wanted my property back to never see him again.
Now, did you believe that he would show up in your car when you met him?
Of course. That's what he left in, yes.
So where did you agree to meet him?
Mila Spa.
Now, when you arrived at Mila's Spa, did you see your Hellcat?
No.
Did you see a different car?
Yes.
And was it a car that you recognized?
No.
I'm showing you State's Exhibit 5. Does this look like the car that he was driving?
Yes.
And again, was that a car you had ever seen before?
No.
Now, when you got there, did you get out and try to talk to him?
Yes.
And again, what were you trying to talk to him about?
I went to the driver's side window. He wrote it down. I said, where are my keys? Where's my car? He was calm and just saying, get in the car, get in the car. And it escalated quickly.
Did you agree to get in the car?
No.
And when you would not agree to get in the car, how did he act?
Violent, aggressive, tried to pull me in the car physically. And I resisted, got plank style so that he could not grab me into the vehicle.
When you say you got plank style, could you just show the jurors what you mean by that?
And I was being pulled into the car by my dress.
Okay, so for the record, you just stood up and put your hands straight above your head.
Yes, so that I was not being able to be budged into the vehicle.
And you said he's pulling at your dress. Can
Yes.
you describe in more detail how he's pulling at your dress?
He's pulling dress, probably a little hair, everything, and then the dress starts to rip off of my body.
And what happens after that?
Once he realizes that the threads were becoming, I was getting away from him and he was still holding onto the dress, he opens the car door, obviously forgets to put it in park. The car starts to roll forward. He tackles me to the ground. The car grazes both of our legs and I'm pummeled to the ground.
How hard did he push you to the ground?
I'm sorry, I don't recall. This is also fast and he's very heavy and I'm 5'2", he's 6'6", so.
Now, what happens after you are pushed to the ground?
I start to get beat.
Okay. Describe what you mean when you say he was beating you.
It all went so fast and so slow, whether it be punches, slapping, choking, that kind of nature. Yes.
Now, you mentioned that the fight is happening around the car. Does
Yeah.
the fight move at some point?
Yes, so I either get drugged, pulled, can't remember, by my hair, arm, or dress, to I'm trying to reason with him, trying to talk to him, but there's nobody behind those eyes anymore. So there was no reasoning with him. I got to the front of the staircase, and I'm holding onto that, and a crowd begins to develop. I'm expecting people to help, call 911. So I'm just trying to bide my time at that point as quickly as help can get there. And that's not working either. I'm starting to get punched and grabbed and choked and all kinds of things again. Somehow we move up to the upper level. I'm trying to convince him, let's just go in Mila Spa. We'll talk about it there. We're safe there.
What was your thought process in getting him to your spa?
Elongate the amount of time it took to get help. I was trying anything that I could to expand the amount of time that I didn't have to go to his car where I'd probably never be seen again. Just elongate the amount of time. I knew help was on its way. The cop even said that's the most amount of pings they've ever heard from a 911 call ever. There was a crowd out there.
Okay. So you're essentially trying to buy time,
Yes.
hoping police will get there
Yes,
to get you away
help.
from him.
Yes.
Now, you say, so you're getting drugged by your hair, you're getting drugged by your dress.
Uh-huh.
Are the stairs to the left of the building the ones that the two of you go up?
Yes.
And where do you end up stopping once you get upstairs?
We ended up right outside suite number 6 is where my unit was at the time. And I didn't know whether, in my head, I didn't know whether I was going to be thrown over. I didn't know whether he was going to drag me in and then they would have to resuscitate my body if they got me inside. I knew I was going to die that day. I was just buying time.
Okay, so at some point, does he continue to beat you
Yes.
as you're up there? Does he punch you?
Yes.
Okay, describe that punch.
The final and end punch that I remember, he got me so straight on and blood just went crazy everywhere. And it almost was like a minute where I could dunk under and run under his arm, run down the stairs. And then that's when my neighboring businesses, the design studio, were calling me, Mila, get in here. And then like, I didn't even realize how crazy I looked, but like they rescued me and I don't know what happened after that. I'm assuming he left.
So I'm going to stop. So it was the punch, was that the point that you were then able to duck and to get away?
I think, and also my friend, there was like a brief moment where it was like just so much blood.
So once you got downstairs, did you go into one of the design studios
Yes,
downstairs?
directly to the right, you see it on the thing. Looking at it is to the left on this picture. That's where they call me into their side office building.
Okay, so
Wow. So then they admitted into evidence a photo of what she looked like afterwards, but she had already washed the blood off her face, and it's a very bad photo, but I'll show it to you. So how he got a hold of her was the other part of the testimony I'm guessing that I missed was how was she associated with this Wade Wilson? She was asked on cross-examination, when did you first meet Wade Wilson? And she said, I don't remember. So I don't know if she met him that night at the bar or if that was her boyfriend. I have no idea. I don't know. But she said that morning when she was at Amy's house, he called her cell phone. But he was calling her business phone number, which is, if you look at her website, you can find the business phone number. So maybe she did just meet him at the bar. I don't know. In any case, she was not asked about injuries. I thought that was curious. You know, like, did you suffer any broken ribs, broken bones? You know, they didn't ask her any of that. Then she did admit that night she and Wade were using cocaine at the Buddha that night, and that he, wanted her to go home with this other guy and to his house, and she said no. Now, why did he have her keys? So she went through this long explanation about how she carries everything she needs to have, all of her driver's license and her credit cards and everything with together with her cell phone. It's in a cell phone holder or whatever. So she just has her cell phone and her keys. So when she's with somebody at the bar, she'll ask him to hold her keys. Then she said, well, I knew he couldn't drive a stick shift, so why would I think he'd take my car? I'm sorry. Why did you give this guy your keys? What? Okay. I'm not victim blaming. I don't know why you gave this guy your keys to your $80,000 car. Because that was another thing. She said when he called her that morning, he was very pleasant to her on the phone, wanted to meet up with her. And she's like, I just want to get my car. I don't want to spend any time. I want to get my car and my belongings. So then he gets angry. Now they're arguing on the phone. And so the defense attorney says, so then why did you why did you agree to meet him? She goes, I wanted to get my $80,000 car back. Okay. But you'll give somebody your keys to hold for you. Okay. One of the comments I think you might have heard her say during the attack was that he had this blank eyes. And so she was asked what she meant by that. And she said that he had dark serial killer eyes. In other words, like no emotion. Like when you see that, there's just no talking to a person. You're not going to get through to them. And she kept saying her goal during this attack was because she thought she was going to die. She says, my goal was just to make this last as long as possible so I could get help. Because he wanted her to get in the car with him, and she probably would have ended up dead. And I think she knows that, or she knew that. She's so lucky to be alive, because then he leaves and goes kill somebody. He leaves her car there. Okay. So then actually, no. When he came to meet her, he wasn't in her car. He was in Kristine's car, the woman that he had just murdered. He was in her car. Because remember, he couldn't drive the $80,000 car. They found that abandoned in some neighborhood later on. A couple of additional people that took the stand very quickly. Scott Hannon, the fiance of Diana Ruiz, the woman that was walking to work. He really didn't have a whole lot to say except that she left that morning, walked to work. He lived with her at the time. She was wearing a ring when they found her body that he had given her to symbolize their love, and really cute ring. And she had texted him once that after she left to say that she forgot to give him a kiss goodbye. So sad. Then we had a guy named Patrick Powers take the stand. Now this was interesting. He's Irish, a heavy Irish accent, and lives in the UK, but has a home in Cape Coral. So he and his wife are there that morning, October 7th. They're having a late breakfast. He says probably around noon. They're just leisurely enjoying their breakfast. And there's an empty lot behind him and his neighbor. And I'm going to show you a picture of this lot, and you'll see there's a pen in the picture, and that's pointing to his house. So behind him, you'll see that lot. He sees a car backing up at that lot, not into the street, but backing up towards his house, and then pulling forward into the street, and it's full of branches and stuff. And he said he'd never seen a car driving on the lot like that. And didn't really think anything of it. Didn't report it until he saw later on that there was crime scene tape up there and police there, and he's like, what's going on? And then he reported what he had seen. And you can see in that photo, and I'll show it to you again, where the body of Diane was found and where there were tire tracks found. So really, really interesting. So that's how the day ended yesterday. Lots of testimony. So I will continue my coverage tomorrow, day 2 of the trial of Wade Wilson. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave me a comment. And I will see you tomorrow in Crafting and Crime Daily. Bye, everybody. Take care.